Hello friends, I am back with the explanation of the elegy written in the country churchyard by Thomas Gray. Since the poem is of 128 lines, so we shall explain it in parts. In the first video, I am going to explain the first five stanzas of the elegy. So here we shall start. The curfew tolls the knell of parting day. The lowing herd winds slowly over the lea. The ploughman homeward plods his weary way and leaves the world to darkness and to me. Now fades the glimmering landscape on the side, and all the air a solemn stillness holds, save where the beetle wheels his droning flight and drowsy tinklings dull the distant folds. Save that from yonder ivy mantled tower, the moping owl does to the moon complain of such as wandering near her secret bower, who lest her ancient solitary reign. Beneath those rugged elms that yew trees shade, where heaves the turf in many a mouldering heap, each in his narrow cell forever laid, the rude forefathers of the hamlet sleep. The breezy call of incense breathing morn, the swallow twittering from the straw-built shed, the cock's shrill clarion or the echoing horn, no more shall rouse them from the lowly bed. The first stanza. The curfew tolls the knell of parting day. The lowing herd winds slowly over the lea. The ploughman homeward plods his weary way and leaves the world to darkness and to me. Now, in the first stanza, the speaker observes the signs of a country day drawing to a close. A curfew bell ringing announces the end of the day. The curfew is a bell that rings at the end of the day, which also signifies that the parting day is actually dying. A herd of cattle moving across the pasture, and a tired farm laborer returning home. The speaker is then left alone to contemplate the isolated rural scene. The first line of the poem sets a distinctly somber tone. The curfew bell does not simply ring, it knells, a term usually applied to bells rung at the death or funeral. From the start, then, Gray reminds us of human mortality. Now, here we see that he established an intimacy with the reader as well as the subject by sharing the personal emotion of death. Stanza 2. Now fades the glimmering landscape on the sight, and all the air a solemn stillness holds, save where the beetle wheels his droning flight and drowsy tinklings lull the distant folds. The second stanza sustains the somber tone of the first. The speaker is not mournful but pensive, as he describes the peaceful landscape that surrounds him. It is gradually fading from the poet's sight. Even the air is characterized as having a solemn stillness, except for the buzz of the occasional beetle and the tinkling bells hanging around the necks of the livestock in their folds. Now, folds here means barn. And what is a barn? It is a place which is used for storing grain, hay, or livestock also. Now, the literary devices used in the stanza are solemn stillness, which is alliteration, and drowsy tinklings is of personification. Stanza 3. Save that from yonder ivy mantled tower, the moping the moping owl does to the moon complain of such as wandering near her secret bowl, molest her ancient solitary reign. In the third stanza, we see the sound of an owl hooting intrudes upon the quiet evening. We are told that the owl complains. Now, apparently, he's complaining that there is an outsider nearby, and that outsider is wandering near her private digs, and also it is bothering the solitude. Here we see that the speaker, the he's complaining about the presence of the speaker. Note that at no point in these three opening stanzas does Gray directly refer to the death or a funeral. Rather, he indirectly creates a funeral atmosphere by describing just a few mournful sounds. The literary device is used in this stanza, Ivy Mantle Tower, where the owl lives as Ivy Mantle. Now, the tower here is Ivy Mantle because a mantle is a kind of a cloak or a coat. So, the speaker is saying the tower is dressed up in ivy. The second is owl personification. Now, moping and complaining because owls don't mope, nor do they complain. It is about a person moping and complaining. So, here we see the poet has used the literary device of personification. The fourth stanza. Beneath those rugged elms that you trees shade, where heaves the turf in many a mouldering heap, each in his narrow cell forever laid, the rude forefathers of the hamlet sleep. In, it is in the fourth stanza that the speaker directly draws our attention to the graves in the country churchyard. Now, these graves are under M and U trees, and there are piles of turf on each one. We are presented with two potentially conflicting images of death. Line 14 describes the heaps of earth surrounding the graves. In order to dig a grave, the earth must necessarily be disrupted. Note that the syntax of this line is slightly confusing. We would expect this sentence to read where the turf heaves, not where heaves the turf. Gray has inverted the word order and he has used the poetic device of inversion. Just as the earth has been disrupted, the syntax imitates the way in which the earth has been disrupted. But by the same token, the rude forefathers buried beneath the earth seem entirely at peace. We are told that they are laid in cells, a term which reminds us of the quiet of a monastery and that they sleep. Now, rude is used to describe someone who was from the countryside, someone who isn't sophisticated. So the forefathers being described here are probably just simple country folks. And we are told that they are laid in these, they are laid in their graves and they are in the permanent sleep forever in which they might never ever get up. Stanza 5. The breezy call of it incense breathing mourn, the swallow twittering from the straw built shed, the cock's shrill clarion or the echoing horn, no more shall rouse them from the lowly bed. The first three lines of this stanza list different things that normally would wake a person up. The delicious smells of the breeze in the morning, birds twittering and singing in the straw nest, the cock's shrill clarion or an alarm, or the echoes of a horn blown by a hunter or a shepherd. All these are beautiful things and which would normally wake up any person. If the forefathers are sleeping, however, the speaker reminds us that they will never again rise from the beds to hear the pleasurable sounds of country life that the living do. The term lowly beds describes not only the unpretentious graves in which the forefathers are buried, but the humble conditions that they endured when they were alive. So, friends, we shall continue the explanation in the next video.